Hello and welcome to the latest of a series of short videos on botany basics. And today I'm going to talk to you about the leaf, particularly in terms of the main flowering group, which are called the angiosperms. And they are split into two groups, the monocots and the dicots. Now the dicots make up most of our plants, so I'm going to focus on that mainly. But one of the ways you can tell the difference is by looking at the leaves. And the leaves of monocots generally are long, thin and narrow, and they particularly have parallel veins along the leaf. Now that's a good way of identifying a monocot, and good examples of that are grasses and things like bulbs such as daffodils and tulips. Now the other and more common plants of our flowering plants, of our angiosperms, are the broad-leaved dicots. And here's an example. This is Bergenia, or elephant's ears. And as you can see, if you look on the back here, you can see how this leaf has branching veins off a central main vein. And there we have the petiole, which is attaching it to the stem of the plant. Now, that's a very good way of telling the difference between the two. If you see branched veins, or we call them reticulate veins, then you know that it is a dicot. Now, in many ways, the structures are the same. They're very thin leaves because they need to be thin because the sun is going to be falling on these leaves, and the chlorophyll, which gives the leaf its green colour, is going to harvest that sun and through the process of photosynthesis create the sugars that the plant needs for the energy for it to grow. Now, in many plants, they have a very waxy upper surface, which is called the cuticle. And it's made of a waxy substance, a waterproof substance called cutin. And this is a very important part of the protection of the leaf. It stops the leaf from being drowned by excess water, but it also prevents damage or protects against damage and disease. The underside, however, tends not to have this waxy coat. But it does have small apertures, or small like valves in it, called stoma, which open and shut according to the time of the day and the temperature, etc. And these allow carbon dioxide in, and then that's necessary for photosynthesis. And then at the end, the waste product photosynthesis, of course, is oxygen, which is then given out in the same way through those stoma, or stomata is the plural. Now, also, the other thing that the plant needs to do is it needs to lose water. Transpiration is where the water is taken up through the plant, and as it gets to the leaf, so it can evaporate and then disperse into the atmosphere again through these stoma. Now, the upper and lower level layers are called the epidermis, and they are a single layer of cells. And that passes through, and underneath there are a series of cells full of chlorophyll, which is actually called the palisade layer, and beneath it another layer which is called the spongy mesophyll. Now, in the diagram that I'll show you on the screen in a minute, you'll be able to see this, and you'll also be able to see the veins running through the leaf, protected by this parenchyma. Parenchyma is a storage tissue, and it makes up most of the center of the leaf. And that's where all the activity is going to be going on in that leaf during the processes of photosynthesis. Now, of course, once the plant has made the sugars through photosynthesis, the leaf is not going to need all of that sugar itself. And so at that point, the sugars are transported away from the leaves, and they move down to the other parts of the plant where they're stored for use to produce energy. So when the leaf is producing and making the chlorophyll and the photosynthesis that results from it and the sugars, we then call that the source. And then it moves down to, say for example, a carrot, it'll move down to the root where it'll be stored as sugars, and we call that the sink. And this is all part of this very complex system that makes up the wonderful thing which we call a plant. So until the next video, enjoy your gardening and stay safe.